Good afternoon, Rugged Nation. What's going on? Today, we're going to see if Hooked on Phonics worked for me, and I'm going to introduce to you my good friend, Benny Lichtenwalner. Did I do it?
Yeah, that's it. You got it,
Awesome, man. Great. Well, I'd say I've probably known Benny for about a year or so now. We've been interacting with each other in some of the, men's personal growth and development groups that I do. And, as I think I might have mentioned in a comment yesterday and probably diced it up as I was typing it out. One of the things I always look for in terms of people, who I, connect with is whether they're saying something as if it came like right out of my mouth. Like someone's asking a question about, either career, relationships, work, etc. And somebody's got an answer to that. And all I can do is just hit like because they said it just like I'd say it. So there's nothing else to add. Or if they say something, they put the pieces of the puzzle together that I already knew the answer and they just kind of put a word on it for me. And I can't tell you when that happened, but I know it's been several times. And that's how we know all around great guy, Mr. Benny over here. So he's got a lot going on. This is a rat race rugged. We're all in some kind of rat race and we're all figuring out a way to stay rugged. So Benny's a dad, got a whole slew of kids he'll probably tell us a little bit about. He stays rugged. He trains jiu-jitsu. He's got, getting back down to fighting weight. He's got a men's dating relationship lifestyle and coaching group, Lover and a Fighter, that he is working on growing. And he'll tell us about that. So Benny, just tell us a little bit about yourself to kind of start out with, and tell us about your rat race. Tell us what's a day in the life look like.
Well, first of all, the secret power is the Cobra Kai coffee mug.
Nice, gotcha. What's in there?
Thing's over. That's it. That's all the only value I have.
It's after 3 p.m. on Friday. Is that just coffee in there?
That's yeah. I swear to God, it is. Well, there might be some creamer and sugar in there too.
Gotcha.
All right. Yeah, man. So here's the thing. So I've got 4 kids biologically from my ex-wife, and they're here every other weekend. Because we live 2 hours apart. So that's the way it's got to be. But it's a big schedule change every time that they're here.
Yeah.
And I also have 2 stepkids and 1 on the way. So
wow.
Yeah, literally we've got pretty much 7 kids for all intents and purposes. And we've got them all at so was actually the logistics of this are real kind of funny because so my stepson, his dad's out of the picture for the most part. Okay. So we have him all the time, but then my stepdaughter, her dad lives nearby. So she's actually 50-50 custody. And with the stepson, we have him the whole time. And then my kids are every other weekend. So we have all these different logistics that we're shooting, in terms of parenting and stuff like that. And it can get pretty fucking crazy. Now, the other thing is my fiance is an entrepreneur. She runs a massage therapy practice in Peachtree City. So in Atlanta, that's kind of like the little Hollywood in Atlanta. It's where all the actors are and stuff like that. So it's really important that she, gets out there to her practice and does her thing. So she's working with actors and stunt people and stuff like that. And that's a good drive away from us. We live sort of like in the more affordable area, right?
Right.
And she's also a CrossFit coach. So she's like coaching CrossFit, running her own business. And she also trains, she's not training right now because she's pregnant. She also trains judo, and she'll come in and sit in jiu-jitsu as well. So she's doing all that stuff. We have all the kids going in all these 20 different directions. Up until recently, we were in a custody battle, and
wow.
We actually had some legit, so this house that we live in officially belonged to her ex-husband for a while until we could finagle out the financing, which took a lot of string pulling because I'm coming out of a bankruptcy.
Entrepreneurs.
Huh?
Because you're entrepreneurs. It isn't as easy as it is for the rest of the world.
100%, man, 100%. So coming off of, coming off of a divorce and then a breakup with a woman that I used to live with for a while, there was a lot of fluctuation there in terms of living arrangement stuff. And then, she got a divorce, et cetera. And so we're patching up 2 different lifestyles, making it into a functional family while we're entrepreneurs, while we're trying to run our fitness, et cetera.
Sure.
And yeah, it can be a mess, man. So
Yeah.
that's the backstory.
I mean, the 2 hour drive and the schedule change every week. I mean, I'm switching up my workout schedule right now and just, moving some different things into place. I've talked about it. I'm trying to work, jujitsu training in with my weight, my weightlifting and taking some time off and, just kind of, rearranging the time a little bit. And man, it's kind of like, it's take some focus just to rearrange that schedule and that routine, but you're doing it in a massive way with 7 kids every 2 weeks. So,
Yeah, by the way, with digital learning, that's thrown a huge fucking wrench in this whole thing, right?
yeah.
So now all of a sudden, there's a point in time where we had them all for digital learning because my ex-wife, she didn't have arrangements for it, right? So
Wow.
imagine 6 kids in the house, while she's well, my fiance has been in and out. So on certain days she was like here to run the show. Other days, I've got a full-time job too while I'm running my business as well. Which they're both like, it's like 2 simultaneous full-time jobs, honestly. And so then I'm running these kids, with the digital learning thing, and it's been out of control. Yeah. So adjusting schedules when you got a lot of shit going on. It can be a challenge.
I mean, you deserve a medal for the online learning stuff. That's incredible. I mean, it really is. And one of the things that I put all of this stuff out for, and kind of what I'm doing with this is just to let people know. Some people need a little bit extra. Who want whatever it is that makes them rugged, whether it's a physical thing or there's mindset things in there as well, or there's that little extra thing like their Lover and Fighter YouTube channel or Rat Race Rugged YouTube channel or whatever it is that they're trying to do. Sometimes you don't know how to get started. Sometimes you don't think you can fit it all in. I mean, there's always some kind of obstacle and you got to figure out why you want it. And so if anything, for anybody who's listening, to just kind of listen to you talk about what it is you're doing. And I can attest to the effort, the time, the effort, and just the overall quality, expertise, and level of what it is that you're trying to pull off is top notch. So, hats off to you and to anybody else who's listening. Whatever it is that you figure your obstacles, your struggles, or your hurdles are, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what the answer is for everybody's individual situation, but I can listen to you and know there's an answer to it. If you want it, you can figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah, I think there's a right way and a wrong way because number one is what you just said is the bottom line. It's like, hey, if you grew up in the ghetto and, you can barely feed yourself, if you don't figure a way out, you're fucked,
Right.
And so it's like, if you're born fucked, the more fucked you're going to be in life until you just elbow grease your way out of it. There's no way around it,
Right.
And it can be harsh, but it's like, if the bottom line is, you've got to take those windows of time that you have and squeeze the fucking water out of the rock, to get whatever you can get and then snowball that momentum. And that's all we have is just what we have. So that's the bottom line. But I also think that there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. I'll give you an example. So obviously I run a dating and relationships coaching practice, right? And we have our little community of men going through the struggle. But example of a wrong way in my life, I'd say, was like thinking back to my original marriage. So I was married for 10 years, had 4 kids. What I was trying to do kind of was like operate off of, familial programming and societal programming, right? As living somebody else's dream,
Sure. Yeah.
Living the dream, but somebody else's dream.
Hey, if you don't have your own, it's a stand-in. But that's the other thing is you got to figure out what yours is. But
Yeah. And at the time I was still an entrepreneur. Like I had a crime scene cleanup business. I made way more money doing that than what I do now. And I ran that for 5 years, and it was really cool. We got in the media and had lots of cool articles and stuff like that. And it was exciting doing that. But bottom line was, I was running a business. It wasn't necessarily my passion. It was just kind of utilizing some trade skills that I built up in the military. And I was kind of married to a person that I chose on criteria that wasn't in touch with what's going on in here, and just toeing the line, trying to create a family and just trying to kind of like operate off of the societal programming. And I made it work. I ran a successful business, had a clean house, had some, was able to raise some great kids. and I pulled it all off, but it wasn't in touch with, what's going on in here.
Sure.
And so I was functioning, but I was in school. I was running my own business. I was going for a master's degree at the time, 4 kids, crazy marital situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing that. And I think the differentiator, like, so for where I'm at now, for example, it's less busy because the kids are older in a sense.
Right.
But like these windows of accomplishment, like where you find the productivity, for me, it's not draining like in the old fashioned because everything's lined up towards what I'm trying to do in life.
Right. Right. You're in alignment with what it is you're wanting to do. So that stuff that you kind of have to use the extra juice to do doesn't really take the extra juice because it's what you want to do and it's what you need to do. And kind of like what you were talking about, and I say this frequently, although maybe in a slightly different manner, but you were talking about, how, it's like if you're fucked, you still have to find those little moments of opportunity. And I put it this way, it's like you have to want what you want more than you want being fucked. You can kind of give yourself the I'm fucked medal and walk around. It's kind of like you can take that to the store and see if that buys you groceries. But ultimately, if you want something, you just got to kind of figure out a way to set that aside and move forward. So that's great, man. And really impressive, because, we've obviously, I knew you were an impressive guy and I knew you did a lot on a daily basis, but I really just didn't know how much. So it's even, as you talk about kind of get into the ruggedness, just setting aside, that was your rat race. That was what life looks like for you. It just makes the ruggedness that much more impressive to me and everybody else listening, I'm sure. So talk a little bit about, you train jiu-jitsu and that's your primary thing that you do to kind of, keep the physical ruggedness. Talk about how you got into that. Talk about what training looks like. Talk about how often you train. Tell us everything you want us to know about you and jiu-jitsu and your training.
Okay. Well, first of all, I only train like 3 times a week right now. There's a time in my life where I train like 5 days a week. And I think, you go through cycles. By the way, I'm getting gutters put up. So if there's some crazy noise in the background.
Okay.
But anyway, there's a time where, I was competing often and I was training like 5 days a week and was a lot more intense. And I do plan to get back into competition. Actually, right now I'm in the process of trying to get back close to competing weight, where I just walk around close to it. But yeah, so I train more sustainably now because like my life purpose is the dating and relationships coaching. That is the main thing that I'm doing. But without jiu-jitsu, you make a good point because you phrase it as staying rugged. Like if I didn't train jiu-jitsu, I would feel like the biggest piece of shit. Like honestly, right. Man. And now here's the thing. Like there was a time in my life where I lifted 5 days a week too. And when I started training martial arts, it kind of like martial arts gave me now I don't put weightlifting down whatsoever. I think people do it for different reasons, but I was doing it to kind of like look tough. Whereas when I started training martial arts, I was like, oh, I can actually be tough. And I don't really necessarily have to look it just so long as I have the skill. So I kind of backed off weightlifting a little bit because that was what I was using it for at the time.
Right.
So training jiu-jitsu, like like I have to say a lot of bold things in my coaching practice, right? I'm talking to like high level players. I'm talking to men and like, if I couldn't stand behind the things that I say, nobody's going to fucking listen to me. And so it's funny how training jiu-jitsu, like when you, and this isn't just like this is out in life. If you're going to say something bold, like if you feel like you have to retract from that because you're scared of that other person,
right?
You can't have a fucking backbone, And so that's one thing that jiu-jitsu gives me that I love is like this ability to sort of like stand behind the things that you say.
Right.
And I think to some degree it's being able to protect others too. Like you don't want to get into like a hero complex, but like you still want to feel like the guy that could, help the lady out in the grocery store who's getting her purse stolen or whatever,
Right.
And that's what it does for me. But more than that, man, it's like, and I noticed this in the times where, I'll fall off, because I fall off like anybody else. I'll get hurt or something will happen and I won't train for a week or two. And in those times, I can actually feel the physical sense of depression like welling up in my body. And training is one of those things that like exercises that. And so
Sure.
when I'm training regularly, it keeps me feeling good. And I think it just plays so many things. I just love jujitsu because like you can train at 100% without getting hurt. It's not like if you spar, like if you're boxing at 100%, somebody's going to get hurt.
Right.
But if you train jujitsu at 100%, nobody gets hurt because, ideally.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, you can say that about anything. Ideally, nobody ever gets hurt. Yeah.
but you tap, right? Somebody catches you in submission, you tap, and they let it go.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. So how long have you been at it now? And what sort of drove you to get into that? What made you look at a jiu-jitsu class and be like, that's what I need to do?
I had a roommate back in the day that was a GM at a MMA gym. This is like back in 2005. And this guy was shredded to the max. He was so nice. Like you would think that he was just like a fucking accountant or something from the way he talked. It's actually funny. The same guy, I know he did some like crazy, like cutthroat shit, like thinking about like old stories. I'm like, man, he did that. But this guy was like the scariest dude on planet Earth because he was the nicest guy. But if you crossed him wrong, you were fucked. Mm-hmm. And he looked the part too. He looked like, like fucking Rambo or something, right? Right. So he actually took some time to teach me jiu-jitsu. I was like, yeah, that's legit. And of course, we all grew up. I'm assuming you did too, man. You grew up like renting like UFC #1 from Blockbuster back in the day. You ever did that?
Right. Yeah.
So like seeing Hoist Gracie in those old jiu-jitsu matches, be like, man, how did this like 160-pound guy beat up Ken Shamrock, right? Like, how did that happen? And that always made me curious. So I always knew jiu-jitsu was the right thing, but I wasn't exposed to it till my roommate, Mike. And I actually started training in 2005, and I let my business partner and my wife at the time talk me out of it, right? Because I was towing the line doing the societal thing.
Sure.
I'd be a black belt by now had I stuck with it.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually start training regularly until I was 33, I think. Yeah, 33, because I've been training like a little over 6 years now.
Okay.
So.
Great, man. Yeah. It's like, whatever it is, it's like sometimes you delve into and people start listening, get scared when you talk about like dropping like what society wants you to do on, the first listen, or what, whatever that means, or whatever, cultural programming, that sort of can get people's, like the hair on the back of their neck standing up. But I kind of break it down simply as this is like, we all need some kind of outlet, right? It's like, you said your business partner and your wife tried to talk you out of it. Well, why? You got it. And then, in other words, for guys out there who are like, perhaps looking at doing jiu-jitsu, perhaps looking at doing something else, and somebody's trying to talk them out of it. I mean, you got to ask them why, because, I don't know about your specific situation, but it's like, you need to have an outlet, and you could be spending that time or money doing something else. Is it just because of their approval? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I look at it this way. People's like, like I'll go to an expensive gym, where we're getting kind of coaching and doing classes and stuff. People are like, well, how much money does that cost? It's like, how much money do you spend on fishing reels? And it's like, so that's what you do. This is what I do. So like, don't ask me how much money it costs, but, or whatever it is, whatever it is for your outlet, you got to take it and make it that and proceed with it. And maybe that makes it, maybe just putting it in that format makes it a little bit safer for somebody who isn't necessarily into jumping off the pier in terms of like whatever they've been trained to do or trained to be for all of their lives.
Well, let me put it this way, man. Those two people are no longer in my life, but jiu-jitsu,
yeah,
is here to stay.
Still there. Yeah, man. Well, good for you. Good. And keep plugging away on the fighting weight. Wait, you've got 2.5 more months for your
2.5 more months for my goal.
Gotcha.
Now I created some strict rules for myself, and I've been selectively bending them over the last week. And we all have our little excuses, and I have mine too. But by and large, my diet looks drastically different from what it did before I got intentional about this stuff.
Sure.
And I haven't been running or lifting as much, but I have been training jiu-jitsu a hell of a lot more. And so I think that, you know, rather than to like blow ourselves all out of whack and do something that's unsustainable, like I've been making these little incremental moves towards, you know, something that's sustainable and getting into that direction. And so, so I know I'll get there. Like I'm really,
Yeah, and you want it, and just again, you know, kind of for like, you know, other people out there, it's like, you know, get yourself into the point where you know, people can tell that you train is, you know, kind of part of ruggedness. It's you know, part of the goal. You've got your very specific goal weight, but you know, I look at it this way, like for those trying to formulate what it is their rugged goal is or how they're going to get there, and how you put yourself in that 3% man category, you know, like the 3% of elite guys who are doing that. I think we're roughly the same age. You might be a couple years younger than me, but just looking at you from like from here up, you can kind of tell, you know, you're not obese. You work out. You might have a little bit more chunk on you than you want at this moment. But for all those guys out there, it's like if you can get to the point where it's like, you know, you're in the rat race, you know, you're not an athlete, you know, you're not getting paid to go to the gym every day, and your shoulders are bigger than your waist, you look good, you know, even if you aren't where you are yet. So props to that, and props to getting the rest of it off and being exactly where you want to be. So we kind of covered your rat race was incredibly demanding. I mean, incredibly demanding. I don't, I just, you know, I'm not worthy in terms of what it is you do every day and how you make it.
Trial by fire. You can take over for me, man. I'll let you corral these seven kids.
Right. Well, I handled one over the New Year's holiday. It was cool, but I don't know if I even want to add a second one on top of that.
So the picture. That's cool, man.
Yeah. He's a lot of fun. He's my 5-year-old nephew for everybody's like, he's cool because it's like we get along. Like he likes to, you know, kind of run ahead a little bit and do his own thing. But it's like right as I'm like ready to open up like my mouth to tell him like not to go any further. I don't know whether he's like afraid, like, you know, he's like looking for like his comfort zone, or whether he knows he's gone too far. But like right as my mouth opens, like he swings around and starts looking for me. So I don't know why he does that, but it works out well. So we get along great. But so talked about your rat race. We've talked about what it is that you do. I mean, you're working at you're training. You said it's only 3 days a week, but 3 days a week is a lot, you know. And 3 days a week for anybody who's looking to get something started, involved in something, whatever it is, whether it's jujitsu, whether you know you want to get rugged by running marathons, whether you want to lift weights, you know, like I've been doing. 3 days is a pretty good start for that. So you've got the rat race, you've got the ruggedness. So tell us about Lover and a Fighter. Tell us what you're doing with that. Tell us about the program you've created. I've been through it, and just in terms of, you know, my experience with seeing other kind of you know, online products, other kind of, you know, coaching, you know, availabilities, opportunities there are out there. I mean, I estimate what you've created in your 28-day course as being at least a $1,500 value, and you're doing that at low and no cost, you know, with kind of a premium access. So tell us, I guess, how you got into it. Tell us what it is you're doing and why, and promote that for us. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, man, I feel really blessed, and I know that that's a catchphrase that gets thrown around a lot by a lot of Karens. Hashtag blessed.
Don't make me laugh while I'm drinking.
But no, I really do, man, because I've spent all the same time that I think most guys are in, where it's like you're just looking for something and you try shit out, and you even try cool shit out, right? Like crime scene cleanup. That's really fucking cool, dude.
Right.
We had an article in the LA Times. We got in Fortune Small Business Mag. Like we had all kind of cool shit going on. And they were talking about doing like a reality TV show, if you can imagine that.
Wow.
And so we had all this like buzz around like this really cool thing that we were doing, but it wasn't the thing that like fulfilled me. And so I've spent so much time like searching for that shit and racking my soul and trying to figure out what I'm trying to do in life. Because I know like I had the passion, I just didn't know where to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just got really lucky, a couple years ago where because I never thought about being a dating coach, like
Sure.
fuck, right? And just like the sequence of events in my life happened as such. And basically through trial and error, came up with a solution to the dating game, and got my heart broken. The story, like my backstory is heartbreak, go kill it in the dating world, and now have something to offer other people. And in doing that, like in giving what I learned, I figured out that, hey, this is really fulfilling. I like doing this. And so that makes it a hell of a lot easier to not, say need to make a lot of money. Like you'll see a lot of dating, like the other day, one of the guys so I did an interview yesterday. I think you were watching it.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And one of the guys in the comments said, hey man, I spent $650, on coaching, trying to get my ex back, and like people, sink a bunch of money in, especially when they're emotionally motivated, by those bad circumstances. Like, man, like I don't have anything that costs that much. Now I do agree. I could now, and I wouldn't even think it's necessarily a bad idea to charge somebody that amount of money for the course that I created. So for those watching who don't know, I have a 28-day free, like actual free, no catches. You don't have to give me your email or anything like that, right? Legit free course that takes you day by day, all the mindset stuff, exercises on, basically 0 to hero for the dating game. And the course is called How to Find and Win Your Dream Girl. And it's geared towards guys who want to get in relationships, but don't understand how to go out there and get a 10. And it forces you not to settle. Like You're not allowed to settle. It's like, you're going to go get your 10. That's what this thing is. And
and a lot of it's very holistic. I mean, a lot of it, a lot of it is like there's overlap to every other aspect of life. Like, you mentioned like the big four of whether it's, your dating, your relationships, money, your mind and your spirit and your body. All of those things, kind of the groundwork of those first 28 days is really laying the foundation for success in all of those aspects. So it's very holistic in that regard, and anybody could do those. You could do that and revisit the rest of it later. Once you've got yourself solid there. But it's in addition to being very specific for dating and relationships, it's really a holistic program for in a lot of respects.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And it's that way because, basically because that's what the dating game is. If you're not a whole person, you're going to get a broken person when you go out there and, when you enter into the sexual marketplace, right?
Sure.
But what I was saying was like with that course, it probably wouldn't be a bad thing if I charged $1,000 for it, because when you force someone to invest, they're going to put in the work for it, So, but it's not. It's free, because one thing I realized, and I model what I do off Corey Wayne, especially because I've learned half of everything I know from Corey Wayne. And for those of you who don't know, he has a free book called How to Be a 3% Man. It's a group that Jim and I are both a part of, and it's just a great men's group, and that's a great book. But Corey Wayne's model is, hey, I'm going to put all the stuff I know out there in YouTube videos for free. And then I'm going to charge, like he charges $1,000 an hour. But of course, he made his money in real estate, right? He is sufficient. I'm sufficient because I have a full-time job. Corey Wayne's sufficient because he went out there and killed it in the business world, right?
Right.
So I don't charge like Corey Wayne does. But the point is, I get my stuff out there for free, and I try to provide as much value as I can. We have a WhatsApp group where guys can come in, post screenshots of their texts, and get real-time feedback like, hey, what do I say next? That kind of a thing. And I do it for free because I know for a fact that even if somebody takes my 28-day course, as they start to apply this stuff, they're going to run into obstacles, and that's what coaching is about. And that's, that's what my model looks like.
Great, man. That's fantastic. So where do people find you if they want to get involved in that 28-day course? If they want to see, what it is we're talking about here, where do they find you? Where do they look that up at?
Yeah. So the best way, because if you just get on YouTube and search Lover and a Fighter, you're never going to find it because it's too low profile. I think a lot of my courses aren't even public playlists. But if you go to lover-fighter, so lover-fighter.com, you'll see like a link for free video programs. It'll just shoot you straight to the YouTube playlist. It's all free. There's no paywall or anything like that.
And that link's down below for everybody watching. It's going to be there. So just go to the description, click on it. You'll be able to find it, and a link to the YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, and then there's two other links in there that are useful, and those are to the groups. So there's a link to the Facebook group, which right now we have 175 people in there, and that's quality people. You know, those are guys that are into personal development, guys going through the journey, who can speak, you know, give you advice from experience. But even more than that, we have a link to a WhatsApp group, so you can hop on WhatsApp and get real-time feedback, you know, like dating feedback, with voice clips and stuff like that. It's like a group mastermind for dating.
Right.
You know, it's all free.
Good stuff. Very good. Very good. Well, man, listen, you're an incredible individual. Thanks for being on today. We covered your rat race. We covered how you stay rugged, and we covered what you're doing with Lover and Fighter, and it's all great stuff. So anything else you want to add before we close this off?
Man, I just want to take a second to empathize with your viewers. So life is hard, guys. Like, you know, I'm, you know, me just talking about 7 kids, right? There's people out there that have way more, like there's fucking John and Kate plus 8, right?
Sure.
There's entrepreneurs like yourself that have businesses providing real value, providing critical value out there to the people that patronize your business. And everybody's doing real shit. Everybody has a grind. Even if you're that person working Burger King, like in the fucking ghetto, if that's your grind, that's what you have to work with, you know? And at the end of the day, you know, we all want to survive and stuff, you know, Maslow's hierarchy, et cetera, right? But at the end of the day, like life is about creating meaning for yourself too. And so I would advise everybody to find what's that thing that drives your soul. Like find that and start spending your energy in that category. Find those windows of productivity and carve out time for yourself. Like, yeah, like there's the grind, you know, and there's the staying rugged on the grind.
Sure.
Right? But there's also what gives you meaning. And so if I have anything to offer, I think that's what that drives me to do the rugged shit too, because I find meaning in all of that stuff as well. So life purpose is good shit. That's my send off.
Yeah, I was waving in the background there. I saw somebody popping in, so I was just giving a shout. But hey, how's it going?
I'm standing out of the way, but waiting for
Hey, thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon, and this will be up, and I'll send you the links to share around. But appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, man.
Appreciate it.
Take care.